The place of all return. Clattering, juddering jeep ride west into the desert, featureless and inviting, offering entrance at every distance far off, every motion towards the center, circumference nowhere, each paused point the center then, also nowhere. What had it all meant? That moment, unfurling cadence of foreign speech, unintelligible yet traduced by a hired wordsmith. Why is the sky blue? Not a valid question of philosophy, it is said, too childish with a factitious answer. Science hath spoken. Yet the knowing how still lacks the knowing chosen. Color is abstract anyway. My blue is not invariably your blue. At least it cannot be proven. Light is ubiquitous only until a hidden space is concealed. Yet space is ubiquitous and cannot be concealed. Drab verbiage, maybe, such mawkish sensibility trapped in attempt of the supramundane, though transcending perhaps also has its culmination. The day draws to a close. Night too has colors, if you know where to look. Look at the night. It promises in hushed tones. One is never alone when there are stars overhead. What are stars really? Should the stars go out, the night's promise would be rewarded. Under the desert sky, star-bright and husky tastes on the tongue, parched with questions of most ancient man. The same sky? Not quite, although the breeze still cooled the raging fire on the skin. Not at night, though. Day's scorch dwindled by night's druidic caress. On. The mystic chant far hence, not common, these days were spoken about long ago. Dead book, living book, the chant may be both, echoed forever in some distant circumferenceless sojourn. Does sound end? In memory, malleable by vibration, all sound is present still, but your sound is not invariably my sound. What mercurial felicity are you conjuring, I wonder? Sand-like sounds gently susurrate on all sides, though which is the sand and which the wind I do not know. Simply onwards we go, in grave pursuit once again, seeking perhaps is its own finite reward. The tire burst, the spare is gone, our journey seemed so ever long, yet now in the centre, circumference nowhere, on foot we reluctantly trudge on. An age of strides increasing in requisite endurance, and he slumps, the driver, and I lift him to his feet. Another age, and both we can go no further. His pain is not invariably my pain, yet still some pain is shared, the water is all finished. Time sweeps through phases, the perimeters of which are soon impossible to notice. Far off the horizon begins hinting at an impending dawn. The driver has been silent an hour. Motivation, the same as sound, requires an input of energy, oftentimes just out of reach. Sleep is surrender, the impetus of which is always lost to mind, unthinkable to recall. Waking, the sands have drifted over, as if some attentive, therianthropic deity had tucked me in with a halcyon shroud. A shroud, mind you, which would bury and suffocate even their own deification given time. Inputting motivation with heaps and heaps of willing exertion, I raise my head a little and turn. Domed and immobile, a camel-sized dune lies stationary, except a scintilla of sand wisps. With much effort I stand, and after a few potent words said in remembrance, I didn't know him well, I stand beneath the lightning sky, in the center of nowhere, too broken to utter a sigh and move on. Alone in heart, the sun usurps the night whose promises are now irrelevant, and reveals blue sky, my blue sky, stretching from edge to surrounding edge of the shimmering sea of exploration. My face puckered and pocked, drier than jokes at this time. A hideous wind rose all round, a howling battered my senses inert, then, storm clearing, revealed a looming, towering thing before me. Megalithic stones, so huge they were as good as dwarfing me by 1,000,000-fold. The lost pyramid stood before me, mighty and foreboding, tenebrous in sides. I stood and stared with eyes rightfully wide, the entrance gloomy, devouring all the sun's fierce morning light. Slowly I stepped inside. No sooner had I entered there, the light behind vanished with no trace. No fumbling, outstretched feeling could appertain from whence I came, only the unmitigated darkness in all directions, circumference everywhere, center merely an abstraction whereon I stood. Pensively I searched for footfall after footfall, not knowing which obscured direction I'd traversed before and again. The utter, eerie silence gave no cause to cry out. If sound makes indelible impressions on where it reaches, this rare stone was too dense with ancient, endless silence. It neither absorbed sound nor amplified it, only diminishing it in its own natural insularity. After long, I ceased exploring corridors and slumped like a defeated creature, hunted and full of yielding abandon. Far off, a voice, approaching staccato footfalls, a figure looming over me as tall as my unsad fear. Still, no light, yet a vision all the same, enshrined the figure clad in darkness, framed in shadow, veiled in blindness, a god, if ever there be, and I knew he. Osiris face, more terrible and awesome than damnation eternal, unwavering and just, smiled before me. Not a joyous smile, nor a quirky, quarrelsome implication, simply an inscrutable, serene, and sublime grin. Instant explosion of transportation, enervation, adumbration, and correlation. A twirling out of space and self. The world was in me, and I nowhere, yet I the center, circumference to the center, the circumference also spiraling through me. Colors were my colors, sounds were my sounds, and that undecipherable sphinx-like smile echoed in my memory as realities collided with realities in the one immane realness of which no words do justice. Ages dawned, matured, and dwindled in emergence of newer and stranger mystery, then abruptly blank. Rubbing a speck of sand out of my left eye, I blinked in the heat and bustle of the town square at noon.
There, this map is very old. Where it leads is centuries under the desert now.
I look up at the face of the translator.
There, are you listening? I can't take you to this place.
Smiling my best sphinx-like smile, I reply, "It's no matter. I've already seen. It's the place of all return."